OPC to Excel webinar, here's what we'll talk about. Number one is the actual problem we are trying to solve. We'll talk about the solution, what it takes to solve it, and we'll specifically show an Excel connection, and we'll show you how all this stuff actually works. And I'll get into more of this in a little bit. What is the problem we're trying to solve? We've got a PLC. We want that data in Excel. It happens that Excel is obviously a very popular data analysis tool, and it's used by automation people a lot. And why? Because automation folks understand how to do their calculations. They understand how to use Excel. They understand PLC data as well. And it's easy to create the reports and the calculation, but the only problem is how exactly do we get the real-time data into Excel. In this case, we've got a couple of controllers and we want to get the data into Excel. We have OPC servers. So OPC is all around us and we've got OPC servers all over the place. These are not typically a problem. Again, the problem is how do we get that OPC data into Excel? Because Excel does not come with OPC connectivity out of the box. To help us, we've got an application called OPC Expert, which is what I'll show in this case in order to get OPC data right into Excel. First, I'll show how to record OPC item information, meaning when you have an OPC server, how do you verify that all the items are right? You're doing your integration project before you put them into your operator console or into your historian. How do you verify that all the items are correct, or at least their naming, their data path, and so on? So we'll see how to do that. Number two is we will take the data and store it, record it in fact, in an Excel-friendly file format so that Excel can actually pick it up and do analysis on it. Then we will grab real-time data from the PLC so that we're actually seeing real-time data in Excel. And finally, we're going to say, okay, well, we're able to get real-time data. How do we get data from a historian? So if I've got Pi or Info Plus 21, or maybe I've got XOPC, or maybe I've got PhD out there, SQL Server, how exactly do I get that data out? So that's what we're going to see. And I will tell you as soon as Windows Registry is being touched in any way, because for the first two tasks, for this and this, we don't need to do anything with Windows Registry. Of course, OPC Expert doesn't require installation, but in these cases, nothing actually has to be touched, even on Windows Registry. You don't even need to run as an administrator. In these two cases, and I will show you, we do have to touch Excel, which means you need to touch Windows Registry, but it's all automatic, and I'll show you. So what are we talking about here? We've got the PLC. That data is going into Excel. We have the OPC server here, and there's OPC Expert. So as far as the support, we're talking about supporting OPC UA and OPC Classic. So with real-time and historical data. So with OPC UA, we're talking about DA and HA, historical access. OPC Classic, DA and HDA. So it doesn't really matter what that data source is. You'll be able to get data in there. Number two, Excel support. So I've seen a lot of people, they're still using the old versions of Excel. And why? Because that's 32-bit. And why is that important? Because maybe you have macros that don't work on the new 64-bit releases of Excel. Well, in this case, everything works with 32 and 64 bits from Excel 2003 to 2019. So we're talking Office 365. It's all supported. And as far as the communication, talking about all the security profiles, you get connectivity to local and remote OPC servers via DCOM or via OPC UA, TCP/IP, HTTP, HTTPS, and so on. So it's all supported. And finally, of course, you can run this as a Windows service if that's what you need to do. So let me show you how this actually works. I'll talk about the architecture first. So we begin, what you're going to see here is what's inside OPC Expert. There's OPC Expert. We're just looking inside now to see what's in it. Well, it's got a DA client and a UA client, and the data goes into what we call an intelligent engine. That intelligent engine then sends data out to Excel RTD, real-time data. It's Microsoft's replacement for DDE, so there's no more polling, it's report by exception. But from that intelligent engine, you can get data out into CSVs, or you can get the data out into a database like SQL Server or XML or CSV, whatever it is you want for the database. But in this case, what's special here is that Excel can open it up natively, and it actually opens up in a format that Excel can read. Now, OPC Expert comes with a bunch more. There are different ways to get the data into OPC Expert, different ways to get the data out with a UA server, DA server, and so on. But in this case here, for this particular demo, we're talking about OPC in and the RTD out, and then storing the data in Excel-friendly file formats or in a CSV. So once again, task number one, we'll record the OPC item information, and then we'll do the rest. So let's get going here with a little demo. So there we are. I'm going to connect to a remote computer. Here we go. Now, when you download OPC Expert, it is only a single executable. There is no installation involved whatsoever. In this case, I'm going to open up my PC, and on this PC, I'm going to see several OPC servers. You can see I've got Kepware here, there's Matricon, there is Iconics, there's Softing, so a whole bunch of different OPC servers. I've got a UA server here. I'm going to connect to the Kepware UA server, in fact, and I'm going to subscribe to some items. There we go. So you can see I'm subscribing to items and a whole bunch of different data types, as you can see here. And for those of you, by the way, that are a little bit cynical maybe and are wondering, is this recorded? Well, this is the actual time. That's my time right now. I'm on Mountain Daylight Time. It's 11 o'clock for me. This is my time. Okay, so I've connected to Kepware. That's an OPC UA server. And I'm going to connect to Iconics as well. And this is a DA server. Now, we have videos showing you how to subscribe and so on, so don't need to worry about it. All right. The first thing I want to do is get data. I want to see the configuration for all these items. So I'm going to go right-click, More, Copy, and I'm going to copy configuration. Copy configuration. So now I open up Excel. And by the way, none of this, I didn't have to do anything with Windows Registry at all. There's no installation. I didn't have to touch it at all. Nothing. So here I will paste. And here is all of my data. I'll resize. And there we go. So this is my computer, my OPC server. And of course, this works with local and remote OPC servers. Kepware UA, there's the Iconic server, there is the URL, there's the prog ID for OPC DA. You can see there's a source app ID, the item location, item name. So you can get all of the information there, the different data types. They're all here. It even gives you a snapshot of the values. So these were the values when that snapshot was taken. You can see timestamp here. So you can see everything is, we actually have everything right in here. Now, all of this might be interesting, but of course that data that we got here, all of this data here, this isn't changing. It's not real time. It's just a one-time snapshot. And we'll get to this. So next thing I'll do is this. Again, I'll select all of these items. And now what I'll do is right-click, Archive, because I want to store these in a file that Excel can open. Some people don't have a historian or anything like that. They just want to store the data in Excel, in an Excel file format. So I'll hit Next. Call this Excel friendly. Now, you can play around with these options and so on. We'll get back to these in a bit, but we'll go to Format, Excel friendly file format right here, and I will say one row for all items. So there we go, one row for all items. This is what the preview looks like here. So here's our information. Now this is just sample data. This isn't the real data. We're just coming up with some information. This is what it will look like. So a whole bunch of timestamps, and we have our values up here. Now, I'll click OK, and what you see is that we immediately begin to archive. So you can see the data changing. There's the data change. That's what's going into the archive. So that's going into the archive. So now what I'll do is I'll go File, Open File Location. Now, we haven't recorded for very long. I'll open the file location, and there's our file. Now I'll refresh. Refresh. It's 11K. This is not a particularly takes up some space, but that's okay. So I'm going to drag it and I'll drop it on Excel. And Excel yells at me because it says, hey, this is a read-only file. Well, of course, yeah, we're modifying it somewhere else. So there we go. So you can see it open up another sheet here. And there's our file. Now this is in, all these timestamps are in UTC, Coordinated Universal Time. You can see the date and there's the time. You can see all of the items. So all the items are here, up here, and you can see their information. Now, I'm going to talk about the file format and efficiency in a bit, but you can see that data is moving, data is changing, and we got this until 12 minutes past the hour. Well, it's no longer 12 minutes past it's 12 minutes and 38 seconds. It's now 14 minutes past the hour, but I'm not getting that value, right? You can see that it only comes up to 13 minutes. Okay, so now, because I'm not getting real-time data in here, so I'm going to close this, don't save it, and I'll open it again, just to show you that the values did actually come in. Excel again is yelling at me, hey, read only, fine. And remember, before it was up until, I think it was 1310 is what it was, but you can see we can go down even further. There we go, 1354, and it is until now, right? So this is when I took the time. Keep in mind, this is repeated. I'll get to this in a bit. When we refresh, you can see the file is actually growing in size. It's 62K right now. So it's slowly growing. 62K is not very big, but still, we can do better. So here we go. Well, okay, Windows is not refreshing, but you know as well as I do that we're getting new data. Okay, now let's talk about the file format here. So I'm going to go to the top. You can see this value here didn't change at all, and it's recorded every time. Obviously, that's taking up a lot of space. You can see that, for example, this value changes more often. This value changes not all the time, but still more often. But the one I want to put your attention to is this one here, level, because I'll get back to this. So you can see it's 41, it's 40.125. Right, 41, 40.5. So it changes, but not very often. And yet we're storing it all the time. In any case, you can open this up in Excel. You can take this. You can trend it if you want. You can do whatever reports you want. This is just an Excel file. There's nothing special about it. So you can open it and you can do it on your own. Okay, so let's clean up. All right. So with all this, now what I'll do, so let me just get back to what I've done here. What I've done is task number 1. So I looked at the OPC item information and I stored data in Excel, but I'm no longer interested in that. Now what I want to do is get the real-time data from Excel. Okay, guys, please keep your questions coming because as soon as this part's over, I will get to them, and I'm answering already some of the questions that you're asking. So here we go. So we've got the PLC, getting the real-time data to OPC, and we're going to look at the real-time data. So I'll go back to my remote desktop. There we go. There's my remote desktop. Okay, so let's get the real-time data into Excel. So this time, to get real-time data, now this is the first time that I'm going to make a change to window. Oh, and I forgot to uncheck it, but that's okay. You have to check Enable Excel Features. When you do that, OPC Expert registers the DLL inside for Excel. So what that means is that Excel will have a new menu option. And watch this. So when I open Excel, here's something you probably didn't see before, which is an OPC menu option. So what this allows me to do, if you take a look, I'll select all these items, I'll drag them and drop them. Okay, so I'm dropping, I drop them. You can see I'm getting updates. There we go. You can see I'm getting updates right now. And all of these updates are coming from both UA and DA servers. In fact, you can look up here. This is flow from Kepler. So I'm in fact going to change this. Right now I'm getting updates once a second, but I'll ask for updates 5 times a second. Every 200 milliseconds, you can see these updates are coming very, very fast. So it's very easy to change these. This is an RTD formula. It's very, very efficient. Excel does not have to poll anymore the OPC server. Excel doesn't poll the OPC server. This is a report by exception mechanism. We can also change this. So for example, iconic, numeric, I'll say I wanted every, I'll make this slower. I'll make it 500 milliseconds. There we go. You can see that it's faster than this one. So some are fast, some are slow. If I want, I can make this guy go to 100 milliseconds, right? So you can see this one is 100 every 100 milliseconds. So it's actually, that's 10 times a second, it's very fast. So I'm reading data, but I can also write. In fact, I want to write the value 1, 2, 3. I want to write it in here. So what I do is I just go to the end, comma, and I say B16, enter, and we can see there's the value 1, 2, 3. If I make this 4, 5, 6, enter, we see 4, 5, 6 right in here. So you can see that it actually writes the values. So you can read and you can write values. You can read values into Excel, and you can also write values from Excel. And we've got some case studies of people doing this and actually creating an HMI with Excel, which is really, really cool, really neat. A lot of capabilities. Okay, so now we're getting this real-time data from OPC UA and DA. Now there's another way to get this, which is neat. So we go to OPC, and we'll go to real-time data. Now notice I was on F1, and it tells me F1 right here. Okay, so it's asking me to drop in the real-time values, so I'll do exactly that. So what I'll do is I'll take some interesting items, and we'll see, I'll show you why they're interesting in just a bit. So I'll miss this one, I don't want it, it's got negatives. I'll just take items that are from 0 to 1. I'll take this one as well. So now you can see I'm grabbing one item from Kepware, and I've got several items from Simulator. There we go. All right, so I've got OPC UA and DA. Now I just drag these, dragging. I'm going to drop them right here. Boom, all done. Now, what's this going to look like? There's the timestamp. Here are the values. I can also make this vertical if I want, or horizontal. I can show the items in different tables if that's what I want. But instead, what I'll do is I'll make this, and you can see this is increasing. I'll say 12 or okay. And again, most recent is going to be here. F1. Okay, so there we go. So I'm going to put the values in here, and you can see this is starting to populate. And you can see the values are slowly moving from right to left. Again, from right to left. That's where they're coming in. The most recent is over here on the right. This is a timestamp for this value on the right. Now, one of the cool things is this information. This is just Excel information. So now that it's in Excel, I could, for example, go equal sum, and I can say I want to get the sum of these guys. So sure enough, I'm getting the total right here. But I've got my Excel formulas. I'm looking at data. I can copy it. I can paste it. Other things that I can do that are particularly neat is I can take all this data. Look at this, and I will insert. And I'll insert a trend. So here I'm seeing a trend. So I'm seeing a trend here. And this trend, I didn't build this trend. OPC Expert didn't build the trend. This is a trend just in Excel. Excel is actually trending in real time. You got it? So I didn't have to do the trend. It's all in Excel. And the reason that it's in Excel is because this is regular Excel data. In fact, I can put in what I really like, which is a surface chart right here. I like it just because it's visually appealing. There we go. So there's a surface plot, right? So that's Excel doing all of this. I didn't have to do it. The values are just in Excel. So, if you're pulp paper, if you're doing films or something like that, you can for sure do it. And Craig and Robert, I'm going to get to your questions in a little bit. So there we see real-time values, and we also see some history. Now we're cheating here because Excel is keeping the history. Obviously, there's only so long you want to keep in Excel, and that's not particularly efficient. So now what I want to do is keep long-term history. So I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to do this. So I'll take all these items right here, right-click, and I'll archive. I'll create a new archive. So I don't want to keep them in an Excel file format because Excel is terribly inefficient. The Excel file format, it's meant to look nice. It's not meant for disk use. So in any case, I'll put it in a CSV still. I could also put it in SQL Server, but here we go. So we've got going to be called database. That's fine. I'll only archive values that change. So if they don't change, I don't have to write them again. The files are going to be a maximum of 100 megabytes. File management, you can play around with these different settings, what timestamp you pick and so on. There's that Excel stuff we did, some options, but we don't have to worry about it. I didn't change anything. I'm just going to go OK. So now what's happening is you can see it's creating another CSV altogether, database.csv, and there it is. It actually opened this up, and now I can see data. And remember, this is OPC UA, and also, so these are UA, these are DA. OPC Expert doesn't care whether it's UA, DA, you don't have to care. Now, I'm going to take some items here. So I'll put this on the side. We'll go back to Excel. Start a new sheet so it's nice and clean. Now watch this. Okay, we'll go to OPC, Historian Data. And here, I'm going to go back to OPC Expert. And remember, I was talking about instrument level. I wanted to show level very specifically. This is the one that didn't change very often. And I'll go to random. Okay. Now, very specifically, what I'll do is I will take, let's just take the last minute of data. So we'll go to 1 minute. Now, I'm going to take calculated or processed values. Got lots to pick from, average, minimum, maximum, there's time average, a whole bunch of capabilities here from the server, but I'll just leave it simple, interpolated. We're going to get 60 values because it's 1 minute of data. If I want 2 minutes, I'm going to get, no. Hang on here. Oh yeah, there we go. So 120 values. Raw, of course, I don't know what I'm going to get. So if I want 1 minute of data processed, I'm pretty much guaranteed 1 second data. I'm going to get 60 values. Now, I'm going to take the name, timestamp, the value. All right, so these will go into A1, and I'll delete this. I don't want it to say not applicable. I want it to look nice, and I'll click OK. Now watch this. Here, in this case, what I'm actually getting, so here is my information right here. So I've got my information. Keep in mind, this is interpolated. So we can see 41, 41, 41, 41, 40. So we're getting data for different values. Now we can take these, we can trend them, we can do whatever we want. We can do a report. So this is interpolated. Now keep in mind, that's not what was actually stored. In fact, if I want to take a look at what was actually stored, I'll just put it here. So that's in O1. So instead of asking for the last minute of data, for processed, I'm going to look at raw. So this is what was actually stored. And what I wanted to show you is level. So here we go. So what we see is, so this is the level, and you can see that the level doesn't go that far because it doesn't change all the time, right? So values that repeat, they're not stored. It doesn't store repeated values. It saves a huge amount of space. So these are the raw values. And maybe I'll make it a bit smaller so you can see better. Oh, thank you, Excel. Hang on, just a report formatting. There we go. So now you can see the timestamps. So you can see the time. Everything is formatted in real time. So there we go. So there you can see that, for example, level raw 1 minute of data doesn't store everything, whereas when we're talking about interpolated, we actually see repeating values, but that's not actually what's stored. So it saves you a huge amount of space as well. So there we go. What we have seen now, and keep in mind, all this time I'm still getting my my real-time data. And then if you guys have questions on it specifically, I can show you. So again, what we've seen is I recorded the item information. I logged in the data in an Excel-friendly file format that I can open. I was able to get the real-time values, and I showed you how I got the real-time values, and I even did some calculations on it. You can read, you can write, and we can get the historical values. Now, keep in mind those historical values, they'll go to any historian. So if you've got your data in a historian like Pi, or like Info Plus 21, like I said, or PhD, or in SQL, or whatever historian you have, you'll be able to get the data out with OPC Expert. So we've seen that little demo. Now, we're almost at the end here, guys. So I've answered actually a lot of questions here, and I'll keep on answering. Giacomo, I'll get to your question in just a little bit. So for automated troubleshooting, we've got OPC Rescue for you. We've got OPC Expert. Both of those are free. You can download them. You can troubleshoot your connection. OPC Expert, very specifically, will do bridging, trending, tunneling specifically, and so on. We specifically looked at Excel connectivity here, but of course there are many, many other functions. Now, if you want to learn more, let me give a little plug-in for the training. You can attend one of our hands-on workshops where you configure DCOM, so OPC Classic, you configure OPC UA, you learn to troubleshoot OPC systems, you learn how to get information through a firewall. We show a connection through with a Windows firewall, with an external firewall, a hardware firewall. We restrict DCOM to very specific ports, which is something people want to do, so you can make it work with an external firewall, so we can comply with whatever policies IT wants. Also, we talk about authentication with work groups to work groups, work groups to domains, domains to domains, different domains, and so on. So we show you how to do all of that, and you learn how to properly secure your OPC systems, access controllers, and so on. And of course, you learn OPC best practices and earn your COP, Certified OPC Professional Designation. Now you can see a complete list on our website, of course. Now, workshops. We have workshops in person and remote. So the workshops are all over Asia, Europe, North America. You can see a list. Obviously, there is no travel now. So we have live remote classes every month. Now, these are not new to us. We've been doing these for many years. I think we've been doing them now for about 12 years, these live remote classes. They're live, they're remote. You don't have to travel. You're home or you're at work, wherever it is, but you don't have to travel. You don't have to be with people. We do this all remote. You actually get your own computer. In fact, you get two computers. So you configure a client computer, you configure a server computer, you start to mess up the settings, you mess it up, you fix it, we mess it up for you, and then you fix it. So it's really a lot of fun in the class. It's and you can see some of the comments that students, some of the students have made on our web pages. It's really, really cool. Okay, one last slide here. Here's what we're going to send you. So once this webinar is over, it's actually being recorded. So we will send you a link to this webinar recording, number one. Number two, we're going to send you a link to download OPC Expert so you can play around with it all you want, and videos showing you exactly how to do this OPC to Excel stuff that I did. So we've got videos on different, on how this works. Now, I got to tell you, these videos are short and they are to the point. There is no time wasted on, oh, hello, everybody. I hope you're doing well. Click down here. None of that. So they're short and to the point and get you going. So take a look at them. They're very, very, very worthwhile. And we'll also give you a link to the next webinar that's titled Convert OPC Data. This is where we show you how to convert from OPC DA to UA and from OPC UA back to DA. So a DA server to a UA server to a DA server, UA client to a DA client to a UA client. So both the client and the server connections. Okay, that's the end of the formal part of the presentation. Now I'll get to the questions that you guys were asking during the webinar itself that that I didn't answer. So so let's see what's going on here. Bear with me. All right. And folks, feel free, please keep on asking the questions. And again, those of you who are a little bit cynical and are wondering maybe this is recorded, go ahead and ask the question and I will answer it, I promise. Okay. Where's the best, so Craig, where's the best place to inhibit writing to tags? Ah, interesting. Read only an OPC server or another method? Yeah. So that's a very common question is, so what, so there's OPC Expert. And what you noticed was that I showed you I could read in Excel and I could also, so I could read data. Remember this one over here, you might not want people to write. And there, wrote 555. If you don't want people to write, you go to the OPC server and you say, do not allow people to write. So in the OPC server itself, you would actually say, I want it to be read only. That's the best place to do it. Yeah, it's not just something that you inhibit in Excel, although you could. Okay, so in the past, I've used Graybar DLL to get OPC data for a given point and display it. Okay, in an access form using VBA code. Okay, so Robert, you've used VBA code. Perfect. Now on Windows 10, 64-bit, it no longer works. Yeah, that gets at exactly what I was talking about earlier with 64-bit versus 32-bit. How do I do the same thing using OPC Expert? Yeah, excellent. So Bob, everything here is available. You can get at these functions directly from VBA. So everything here is available from VBA. So this is an actual formula And what I'll do is I'll contact you. I'll give you a VBA example. We should actually put that up on the website. So we will. But yes, you can for sure get at this from VBA, and that's exactly what people are doing. Okay, Giacomo, how do you set the refresh rate in Excel versus data sampling time? Ha ha ha. So this is actually very interesting. So what you're seeing here is not just a refresh rate in Excel. What this is the right now OPC Expert is, so in this case, OPC Expert is actually subscribed at 500, so they're synchronized. Excel is actually telling OPC Expert, I want you to subscribe every 500 milliseconds. That's half a second. In this case over here, it's subscribing every second. So there's no cheat here. It's actually OPC Expert that's bringing in the data. OPC Expert is subscribed. If the data doesn't change, for example, over here, it is subscribed every second. It doesn't change, so it doesn't update Excel. So it doesn't matter what the subscription is. The subscription is synchronized with the sampling rate. Okay, Giacomo, I think that's what you were trying to ask. If not, just let me know. Okay. Isn't it possible to protect cells and sheet in Excel? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So good point, Giacomo. This is what I was saying, that you can disable stuff in Excel. But remember, if a point is read only in the OPC server, this thing cannot do magic and all of a sudden write to it. Also, if your point is read write, yeah, people will be able to write to it. Now you can stop them from Excel, you can protect the cell and so on, but they'll be able to write from another application. But of course, not from your sheet. So yeah, you're absolutely right. You can stop people. Okay. Ben, does OPC Expert still require .NET 3.5 to be installed? Yeah. So yeah, there's the .NET framework 3.5, and depending on what you're using, but if you need a different framework, that's the unfortunate thing with the .NET framework. You kind of have to choose what there is. 3.5 seems to be very common for people, but if you have a need for very specifically for 4 or something else, then you just let us know, and we will work with you. Okay, next question. How do you enable OPC in Excel again? Yeah. So, Sean, I think what you're getting at is, well, how did we get this in Excel exactly? And the way that's done, we'll close this. I got rid of the nice surface chart. Yeah, the tab. So what you can see is when we open Excel, there's OPC. So I'm just showing you that that's where it is. But the way that was done, you can see Excel isn't running anymore. So the way that was done is Tools, Options, right here, Enable Excel Features. So if you uncheck it, if we uncheck it like this, you can see we are still, of course, archiving data. This data could come into Excel. But now, when we open up Excel, there is no OPC in here. So it's that check mark. Now, keep in mind, even without it there, and just to prove the point, so there is no. So if I go in here to this Excel-friendly CSV, that's where it's still storing. What I'll do, File, Open File Location. So there's our file. You can see it's actually getting fairly large. Drag, drop. Excel will yell at us because it's read-only. There you go. And sure enough, we're still getting the values in here. Right, so the values are still here. And if I go to the very end, by the way, there we go. So we're 41 minutes after the hour. So you can see it's actually storing up until now. So it really is storing, and you can get this data in Excel. Now, what don't you have? What you don't have is that OPC tab. So now we can't go to historian. I can't get real-time data into Excel. I can still get the OPC server configuration, but I can't get the real-time data into Excel. To get that back, I go back to Tools, Options, and again, when you do this, it registers that add-in right within Excel. So there we go, and so there's our Excel. Oh, would be nice if I know how to double-click. So there's Excel, and sure enough, there's OPC. It's back, and now I can get my real-time data or my data from the historian. So there you go, Sean. I hope that that's what you're looking for. Oh, David, can you read and write? Yeah. So real-time data. So I'll take this. I'll take ramp, and I'll take memory as an example. Drag, drop. Right, that's all it takes. Drag, drop, done. Okay, so here, remember, it was 555. Obviously, I can't write to this now. If I go 1, 2, 3, I can't write anything in here because I need to tell this guy, I want you to, comma, C3, enter. And now it'll write 1, 2, 3 in here. If I say 100 milliseconds, then the, oh, wrong one. I go in here and I say 100 milliseconds. There we go. So now when I write 456, enter, it's fast. The writing is really, really fast, even from Excel. Now, what this is doing is two things. Number one, it's writing a value in here. Oh, and oh, by the way, look at this. There's memory. It's 456. If I actually write from here and I write 111, so I'm going to write from here. I'll click write. Watch it over here. So write, and sure enough, it changed right here. And you can see the value changing. So I'll say 222, right, and it's changing here and here. Now, you notice that this is still 456, and it didn't write 456. That's because this didn't change. So you only write it once, which is very, very important. So if I say 444, enter, poof, it's 444 and 444 over here. So you're reading and you're writing, and it's actually displaying. This is displaying what that value is. Hope that answers the question, David. Craig. If you wanted to share a spreadsheet with a colleague that is in the same domain, it doesn't matter if they're in the same domain. So assuming OPC server connection, no OPC server connection. Yeah. So what Craig is getting at is, let's just assume you can still connect to the OPC server. Does that colleague have to? Does that colleague have to have OPC experts on their machine? Yes, they do. Why? Because these values are actually coming from OPC experts. Now, I should really say, if you are saving this, you can just save the values. Boom, they get it. They don't need OPC experts. That's just a regular spreadsheet. But if you want them to get real-time updates, then yeah, for sure, they need to connect to an OPC server. The only way to do that is to have OPC experts with Excel. Keep in mind that, and if so, do they need to integrate to Excel as, okay, yeah, so I think this is what I'm answering. However, keep in mind, for example, this file here that's constantly being created, right? And I'll refresh here. This is 787. Yeah, it was 787. Now it's 925. So it's still growing. That file, anybody can open. Anybody can open this specific file. Anybody can do that import. So it can all be done. Last question here, and because I see that I went a minute over. Interesting. So Scott is asking, is there a way to force a write every cycle to keep the cascade mode in place? Meaning, I want to write. And yes, absolutely you can. For sure, you can do that. So for example, watch, I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to take this value here and I'm going to write it in here. Look at this. So I'll say, I don't want to write C3, but I actually want to write B4. So I can click here. I can actually click here, or I can just type B4, either one. There it goes. And look at this. I'm actually writing values right in here, right? So it's powerful. It's really, really powerful. There you can see memory is actually changing. Keep in mind, this is subscribed every second. So we're actually seeing it faster in Excel. Scott, if there's a change, if there's no change, you can decide whether you're writing it or not. So it's always that value. You can lock it in. And yeah, for sure you can do that. So let me get back. So once again, we're going to send you an email with a link to this particular webinar, and also a link to download OPC Expert so you can experiment with it, play around. It's very, very easy to download and to start working with it. We will send you a link as well to videos showing you how to do the stuff that I did here and even more, and a link to the next webinar titled Convert OPC Data, which is where we show you how to convert from UA to DA and then DA back to UA. So thanks again, everybody, for coming. I hope to see you at our next webinar.